The ground trembled under Commander Rourke's boots as he stepped out of the bunker and into the burning night. The sky over Earth was torn open by fire, smoke, and falling debris. What had started as a quiet evening at the North Atlantic Defense Post had exploded into chaos only minutes earlier. No one knew exactly what struck the planet, but everyone felt it. A wave of force, sharp, shaking, and impossibly large, rolled across continents like a giant fist slamming down from the heavens. The earthquakes came right after, spreading in every direction, leaving cities shattering behind them. But the worst part wasn't the shaking ground or cracking sky. It was the silence that followed. A silence so deep, Rourke thought he had gone deaf until he heard someone screaming for help. He rushed toward the edge of the cliff overlooking the ocean. The water below acted strange, rolling back farther and farther as if the sea itself wanted to flee. Bright streaks of blue light shot up from under the waves. They weren't natural. They weren't human. And Rourke knew exactly what they meant. The enemy was here. Sirens howled across the base. Soldiers ran in every direction while ships launched from their hangars, one after another, in emergency ascent paths. The air felt heavy, as if invisible pressure pushed down on everything, making breathing difficult. Lights flickered. Loose metal rattled. And then another tremor shook the earth so hard that the concrete under Rourke's feet cracked like thin ice. He grabbed the railing to steady himself and stared at the horizon. Something was rising out of the ocean. At first, it looked like a dark mountain breaking the surface, but soon it showed its true shape. A massive alien craft, shaped like a jagged spearhead, climbed upward in a spinning column of blue fire. The water around it boiled. Entire waves lifted into the sky like floating sheets before crashing back down. Rourke whispered, "This wasn't supposed to happen, not this soon." But it had. The warning signs that Earth had sent to the Council months ago, the strange energy readings, the shifting gravity pockets near the sun, the sudden matter distortions, had all been ignored. Earth wasn't a full Council member, so its concerns were treated as noise. The Council had called humanity young, unstable, and overly emotional. They believed Earth was exaggerating the threat. They believed Earth was safe. They were wrong. The alien craft released a deep, vibrating tone that rattled the bones of every living creature on the coast. Birds fell from the sky. Fish floated to the surface in shock. The soldiers on the base covered their ears, but nothing helped. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt inside the body, crawling under skin and pushing against nerves. Rourke gritted his teeth. Earth had seen this enemy before, though only in small encounters on the outer colonies. The Zyre Dominion. A species that claimed entire star systems with cold precision and took whatever they wanted. The Council once promised to protect planets under their network, including Earth, but that promise reached only as far as their pride. They never believed anyone would dare strike at the worlds under their watch. They called their protection untouchable. And now the Untouchable Council was nowhere to be found. The ground shook again, but this time it wasn't the Earth's fault. It came from above. Rourke looked up and saw streaks of yellow and red cutting downward through the smoke clouds. Dozens, no, hundreds, of smaller alien dropships broke formation and spread across the coastline. For a moment, Rourke felt the same fear he saw on the faces of his soldiers. A crushing fear. A fear that said, "This is the end." But then something else rose inside him. Anger. Hard and sharp. Earth was not helpless. Earth was not silent. Earth was not weak. They had been ignored for too long, treated like children by aliens who never set foot on human ground. He turned back to his crew. "We fight now," he said. "We fight for every city, every family, every piece of this planet. No one else is coming." A young communications officer ran up to him. "Sir. We've been trying to reach the Council. No response. It's like they're blocking all channels." Rourke laughed bitterly. "They're not blocking anything. They're running scared." The ocean erupted as more spear-shaped crafts shot upward. The sky darkened even more as alien fighters zipped between clouds, spinning into attack positions. Earth's ships returned fire from the ground and from orbit, but the enemy was fast, much faster than the reports claimed. Explosions lit up the night in colors no human weapon produced. A loud crack echoed through the base as part of the cliff collapsed into the sea. Rourke stumbled back, shielding his face from flying debris. The smell of burning metal filled the air. Someone shouted, "Incoming!" A blast struck the southern hangar, throwing flames into the sky and sending shockwaves across the base. Rourke blinked through the smoke. He watched the alien spearhead craft turn slowly, its blue energy building up again. It was targeting the mainland. He knew what was coming. He also knew he couldn't stop it. But he could try. He ran toward the command tower. "Power the rail cannons," he yelled. "All of them. Fire at the spearhead before it charges." His soldiers obeyed without hesitation. Even in fear, humans moved with purpose. The ground hummed as Earth's massive rail cannons powered up, glowing orange at their cores. The energy inside them built until the air crackled. Rourke stood in front of the tower, staring straight at the alien ship. "You picked the wrong planet," he whispered. And Earth fired. The rail cannons released their shots with a blinding flash. 3 massive streaks of white-orange fire tore across the sky, shaking the air like thunder trapped inside a metal cage. The beams hit the alien spearhead square in its side. For a moment, it looked like the attack worked. The glow around the alien ship flickered, and blue sparks sputtered across its surface. But then the glow steadied again. The alien craft turned its full attention toward the rail cannon line. Rourke swore under his breath. Even the most powerful ground weapons on Earth only managed to scratch the enemy's shields. The Dominion had arrived prepared, far more prepared than any human command expected. And now the spearhead's massive energy core pulsed like a beating heart, growing brighter and brighter. The communications officer grabbed Rourke's arm. "Sir, we're detecting an energy spike. Much larger than before." "I see it," Rourke said. He didn't take his eyes off the ship. A weapon like that, aimed at the mainland? Millions could die in seconds. The humming grew louder. The blue light inside the spearhead twisted, forming a spiral that pulled air and smoke toward it like a miniature storm. Pieces of debris floated upward, caught in the strange gravity. Even from a distance, Rourke felt pressure pushing against his chest. Then something unexpected happened. A distant boom echoed from above the clouds, sharp and powerful enough to make even the alien vessels momentarily shift course. Rourke tilted his head back. Through the smoke, a new light appeared. Not blue like the enemy's weapons. Not orange like Earth's rail cannons. Gold. A golden trail cut through the sky like a burning arrow. It moved faster than any human aircraft, faster than any Dominion drone. It dove straight toward the spearhead ship. "What the hell is that?" someone shouted. Rourke didn't know. But the enemy did. The spearhead's blue spiral flickered, its focus breaking for the first time. The glowing gold streak shot downward and slammed into the alien ship with a force that turned the sky white. A shockwave blasted the coastline, knocking soldiers to the ground and ripping the tops off nearby cliffs. When the light faded, the spearhead's shields were gone, completely stripped. Its metallic surface was exposed, smoking and cracked. Rourke stared in disbelief. Whatever the golden streak was, it had done more in one hit than all of Earth's cannons combined. The alien ship began to rotate again, but this time it moved less smoothly. Its engines sputtered. Blue fire fanned out unevenly from its rear thrusters. The Dominion pilots were clearly trying to stabilize it, but they were struggling. Suddenly, the golden trail arced back through the sky, revealing its shape more clearly. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a drone. It was a ship. Small. Sleek. And impossibly fast. A human voice crackled over an open channel, one that Earth military had never used before. The speaker sounded calm, almost too calm for someone diving into a war zone. "North Atlantic Defense Post," the voice said, "brace for impact. Round 2 incoming." Rourke blinked. "Identify yourself," he shouted into his comm. "Who are you? What unit are you with?" No response. Only static, and then the golden ship streaked forward again. This time, the alien spearhead tried to defend itself. Blue beams shot outward like a web of lightning. The small golden ship flew straight through them, dodging with unnatural precision. It twisted sideways, dropped low, and rose again, all in one smooth motion. It was like watching a bird dance between storms. Rourke had seen elite human pilots before. None of them moved like this. The golden ship charged its nose tip with a bright glow and rammed into the spearhead a second time. The impact tore open an entire side panel of the alien vessel. Metal shredded. Fire erupted from the wound. A ripple of blue static spread across its hull. The spearhead shuddered. The Dominion forces nearby reacted instantly. Their smaller fighters swarmed toward the golden ship, firing beams that sliced through the air. The mysterious craft darted upward, pulling the enemy with it and giving Earth a brief moment of relief. Rourke used that moment. "Rail cannons," he shouted. "Fire again while its shields are down." The cannons answered with a thunderous roar. Multiple blasts slammed into the exposed wound on the spearhead. This time, the alien ship didn't shrug it off. Its internal structure twisted and buckled. A long, deep crack spread across the hull. One more hit would tear it apart. But the spearhead wasn't done. With a burst of desperate force, it fired a massive blue beam downward. The blast struck the ocean and split it open, sending a wall of water hundreds of feet high toward the coast. Rourke stumbled backward. Move. Everyone, move to high ground. Soldiers scrambled. Vehicles roared to life. The water raced forward like a monstrous hand reaching for the base. Then the golden ship dove again. Straight into the path of the blue beam. It didn't fire. It didn't dodge. It simply positioned itself between Earth and certain destruction. The ship glowed brighter and brighter until its entire body looked like molten light. When the blue beam reached it, the beam bent, actually bent, changing direction into the sky. The golden ship saved them. But the cost was clear. It spun out of control, smoking from its wings, descending fast. The alien fighters chased it mercilessly while the spearhead struggled to stay airborne. Rourke watched the mysterious craft fall toward the forest behind the cliffs. Whatever that ship was. Whoever flew it. They might be humanity's only hope. And they were about to crash. Smoke trailed behind the golden ship like a long scar across the night sky. Commander Rourke ran toward the cliff's edge, watching the craft spiral downward. It wobbled, tried to level out, but the damage was too great. One wing was glowing red hot, bent inward. The other was trailing sparks. The ship dropped lower and lower until it slammed through the forest canopy with a violent crash that sent a shockwave rolling through the trees. Rourke didn't wait for orders. He was already moving. Take a rescue team, he shouted to his squad. We're going after that pilot. Several soldiers followed immediately. Others stayed behind to defend the base as the Dominion fighters regrouped above the ocean. Rourke sprinted across the cracked ground, boots slipping on fallen branches and broken cables. Fires burned all around them. The air smelled like hot metal, ash, and sea salt. The forest ahead glowed with orange flames where the ship had cut through the trees. A thick column of smoke rose above the treetops. The crash site was close, but the path was rough. Fallen trunks blocked the trail. Leaves rained down with every distant explosion. One of the soldiers, a younger man named Hale, called out, "Sir. What if it's a trap? What if the enemy sent that ship to confuse us?" Rourke didn't stop running. "Then I'll deal with it myself." The truth was, he didn't believe it was a trap. That golden ship had taken direct hits to protect the coast. No Dominion vessel would sacrifice itself for humans. The pilot, whoever they were, had acted with purpose, skill, and something else Rourke recognized instantly. A sense of duty. They cared about saving lives. That alone made them worth finding. When the rescue team reached the crash site, the view was worse than Rourke expected. Trees lay scattered like broken bones. The ground was torn open. The golden ship sat half buried in a deep trench, smoke pouring from its cracked hull. Sparks popped along its surface. Small fires licked at the metal. Rourke motioned for his team to spread out. Check for Dominion drones. Look for motion sensors. Call out if you see anything weird. They searched quickly. No drones. No traps. Only a quiet forest shaking under the distant thunder from the coast. When Rourke approached the ship, a faint hum vibrated under his boots. The hull was warm, almost too warm to touch. The golden metal shimmered, as if trying to repair itself but failing. Strange markings ran along the side, symbols not from any human language, but also not Dominion runes. Something else. Something older. A small hatch on the side of the ship snapped open with a sharp hiss. Rourke raised his weapon. His team aimed their rifles at the opening. For a tense moment, nothing moved. Then someone stepped out. A human. A man in a lightweight flight suit, tall and lean, with short dark hair. His face was burned on one side, and he limped as he stumbled onto the broken ground. He looked exhausted, barely conscious. But his eyes, sharp, focused, landed on Rourke immediately. Rourke lowered his rifle, stunned. "You're human?" The pilot nodded weakly. "Mostly," he said in a strained voice. "Depends who you ask." Rourke stepped forward and grabbed the man's arm before he fell. Hale helped lift him. "Who are you?" Rourke asked. The pilot took a slow breath. "Call sign, Orion. Ship name, Soulblade." Rourke frowned. He had never heard of either. "Are you part of a Black Ops unit?" Some secret Earth program? Orion shook his head. No. I'm not from your Earth military. Hale stepped back, confused. Then where are you from? Orion focused on Rourke. From farther than you think. I'm here because the Dominion wasn't supposed to attack your planet. Not yet. That chilled Rourke more than the explosions in the distance. What do you mean, not yet? Orion leaned heavily against a fallen tree. The Council. They made a deal. A quiet one. They promised the Dominion something in exchange for leaving their core worlds alone, but Earth wasn't considered important enough to protect. Rourke felt heat rise in his chest. Rage. They sold us out? Orion didn't answer, which was answer enough. Before Rourke could press him further, the distant sound of crackling energy filled the air. Hale spun around. Sir. Look. 3 Dominion dropships swooped over the trees, scanning the forest with bright blue beams. They were hunting. And they were heading straight toward the crash site. Rourke cursed under his breath. They tracked the Soulblade. Orion pushed himself upright, grimacing in pain. They'll kill anyone near this site. You need to move. Now. Can you walk? Rourke asked. Walk? Yes. Fight? Not much. I burned out most of my systems bending the beam away from your coast. Rourke almost smiled despite the danger. We noticed. The dropships drew closer, their beams slicing through the trees, turning bark into vapor. One beam passed so close that it burned a line through the ground just meters from Rourke's feet. Move, Rourke shouted. His team helped Orion forward as they ran deeper into the forest. Branches whipped their faces. Roots tripped their boots. The air crackled with Dominion energy shots. A blast hit a tree beside them, sending wood shattering like glass. Another beam exploded behind them, throwing Earth into the air. They're hurting us, Hale yelled. Trying to trap us. They won't, Rourke said through clenched teeth. Orion, can your ship do anything? Eau de défense? A last-shot weapon? Orion shook his head. My ship is dead. But I'm not. He lifted one hand. A faint golden spark appeared in his palm. Rourke stared, stunned. What is that? Later, Orion said. Right now, get ready. The golden light grew brighter. The Dominion dropships closed in, and the forest lit up with 2 colors, blue and gold, crashing together. The forest exploded with color as the golden spark in Orion's hand burst outward in a wide arc. The light rolled through the trees like a wave of warm fire, bending around Rourke's team without burning them. But when it hit the Dominion beams, the air snapped like breaking glass. Blue and gold collided, creating a shockwave that knocked leaves, dirt, and branches into the air. The closest Dominion dropship jerked sideways, its stabilizers sputtering. Golden static clung to its hull like glowing dust. The ship spun out of control and clipped the top of a tall pine before slamming into the ground with a loud metallic screech. Rourke barely had time to register the crash before Orion stumbled forward, nearly falling. Hale grabbed his arm. He's going down. I'm fine, Orion muttered, though his pale face said otherwise. That blast took too much. I need a minute. They didn't have a minute. The other 2 Dominion dropships adjusted quickly, circling above the crash site. Blue lights blinked along their undersides as they prepared another strike. Their scanners swept the forest, searching for movement. Rourke scanned the area. They were trapped on uneven terrain, with no cover except thin trees. The Dominion had air superiority and heavy firepower. They couldn't outrun them in time. Orion, Rourke said quickly, can you do another one of those blasts? Orion shook his head. Not so soon. My energy is nearly dry. Hale eyed the smoking wreck of the first dropship. Sir, what if we take their weapons? Rourke shook his head. Dominion gear won't work for humans. It'll fry our nerves before it fires a shot. But we can still blow the ships up, another soldier said. They're low. Rourke nodded. Then we take them down the hard way. The 2 Dominion ships dipped lower, blue beams forming tight spirals under their hulls. They were locking onto targets. Rourke raised his rifle. Spread. Don't cluster. Make them divide fire. The squad sprinted apart, diving between trees. Blue shots sliced the air where they had just been standing. Bark exploded from a tree trunk as a beam struck it, sending chunks flying. Rourke slid behind a fallen log, firing upward. The bullets bounced off the dropship's armor, doing nothing but make noise. Still, he kept firing. Noise was enough to draw their attention. Hail rolled behind a boulder and launched a flare. The bright red streak shot into the sky, distracting the scanners. The Dominion vessel veered slightly, uncertain. Orion, leaning against a broken stump, whispered something under his breath. The golden spark flickered faintly in his fingertips, but it was weak, barely a glow. Not enough, he muttered. One Dominion ship angled toward Rourke, engines roaring like burning thunder. It fired again. The beam hit the ground only 3 meters from him, lifting dirt and stone in a violent blast. The shockwave threw him backward, knocking the rifle from his hands. He hit the ground hard, ears ringing. The ship hovered above him, its underside glowing bright blue. It was charging a full power shot. One hit would vaporize him. Rourke stared up at the glowing energy. He couldn't move in time. He couldn't dodge. There was no cover. Then Orion stepped forward. Even injured, even barely standing, he moved between Rourke and the ship. He lifted his hand and pressed his palm outward. A tiny spark, a single point of gold, appeared. Small, weak, flickering. The Dominion ship fired. But the beam never reached them. The moment the blue light touched the golden spark, the air twisted. It folded inward like a curtain being pulled through a narrow opening. The full Dominion blast shrank into a single, swirling point no bigger than a coin. It spun in front of Orion's hand like a blue storm trapped in a jar. Rourke stared in disbelief. How are you doing that? Orion's voice trembled with fatigue. Training. A lot of training. Then the swirling point snapped open like a slingshot. The Dominion's own beam shot back at them, redirected upward with double the speed. It smashed into the drop ship's underside. The ship convulsed violently. Blue sparks sprayed in every direction. Its engines flickered, coughing out plumes of smoke. The Dominion vessel spiraled, lost control, and crashed into the forest with a thunderous impact. Only one remained. Orion collapsed to one knee, gasping. He was nearly unconscious. His golden spark vanished completely. Rourke ran to him. Orion. Stay with me. I'm here, Orion whispered. But I can't push again. Not yet. The last Dominion dropship circled overhead, scanning for survivors. It had watched everything. Now it was angry. Its underside opened, revealing something worse than energy beams, a drop pod launcher. Inside the pod, armored Dominion shock troopers waited, weapons ready. They didn't want to bomb the humans now. They wanted prisoners. The pod fired downward like a bullet. Rourke grabbed Orion and pulled him behind a burnt log. Everyone scatter. They're deploying ground units. The pod hit the ground and exploded open. 3 towering Dominion soldiers marched out. Their armor was black-blue, their bodies heavy with cybernetic muscle. Each held a plasma spear crackling with deadly energy. One pointed at Orion. Target located. Rourke stepped in front of Orion, rifle raised even though he knew it wouldn't pierce their armor. You'll have to go through me. The Dominion soldier tilted its head. Accepted. Before the alien could move, the forest shook again, this time from something deeper. A distant rumble. Growing louder. Rourke's eyes widened. What now? The trees behind the Dominion troopers split open as a giant shadow crashed through the forest. A massive earth mech, scarred, half damaged, but still functional, roared into the clearing. It raised one huge metal arm. And fired. The mech's arm-mounted cannon fired with a deep metallic bang that echoed across the entire forest. A blast of compressed kinetic force shot out like a gray-white thunderbolt. It hit the lead Dominion soldier square in the chest and sent the alien flying backward, smashing it into a tree trunk thick as a truck. The tree split in half from the impact, and the Dominion warrior slumped to the ground, armor cracked and sparking. Rourke stared in shock. I thought every mech in this region was offline. The mech stepped forward, metal joints grinding, smoke leaking from vents on its legs. Its paint was scorched. Parts of the armor were missing. Its left shoulder flashed with an error light. This machine looked like it had crawled out of a war grave. A voice crackled through its speakers. Not all of them, Commander. Rourke's eyes widened. Captain Marin? Inside the mech cockpit, Marin let out a tired laugh. Good to see you alive. The base is falling apart, but I managed to reboot one of the old Titans. She doesn't like to walk anymore, but she still shoots. The 2 remaining Dominion troopers shifted into attack stance. Their armor plates opened slightly, exposing glowing energy nodes. One raised its plasma spear and pointed at the mech. Earth machine detected. Threat level, high. Marin snorted. Come try something. The troopers moved fast, much faster than their heavy armor suggested. One lunged at the mech's leg, spear tip blazing. The other charged Rourke's squad, trying to reach Orion. Rourke opened fire. Hale opened fire. The whole team unloaded bullets into the advancing alien, but the shots only slowed it down for half a second. The Dominion warrior kept coming, spear raised for a killing strike. Rourke shouted, "Back, spread out." The shock trooper slammed the spear into the ground, sending a burst of blue energy outward. The blast knocked Hale off his feet and threw another soldier into a tree. Rourke dove behind a fallen log just in time to avoid the full shockwave. Orion, still exhausted and half-conscious, crawled backward. He had no energy left, no golden spark, no defensive trick. If the trooper reached him, it was over. The Dominion soldier raised its spear. Suddenly, Marin's mech swung its massive arm sideways like a battering ram. The metal fist crashed into the trooper's head, smashing its helmet sideways with a metallic crunch. The alien flipped through the air and hit the ground hard. "Oh, you wanted him?" Marin shouted. "Too bad. He's ours." The first trooper, the one that had attacked the mech's leg, managed to stab its plasma spear deep into the Titan's armor. A spray of sparks burst from the wound. The mech trembled, servos whining. Marin growled. "Oh, that's it." She lifted the mech's foot and stomped the trooper into the dirt. The shockwave shook the trees. The Dominion warrior twitched once, then went still. The third trooper, the one she had punched earlier, began to stand again, metal bones cracking as it forced its half-broken armor to move. "That one's still alive," Rourke said. Marin raised her mech's cannon arm again. "Not for long." The trooper raised its spear in defiance. A golden streak shot past Rourke's ear. It hit the trooper directly in the chest, punching a glowing hole through its armor. Everyone froze for half a second. Rourke turned. "Orion?" The pilot was on his knees, gasping, but there was a faint glow around his fist. A tiny shard of golden energy drifted upward like a dying spark. "Had won." "Last shot," Orion whispered. The final trooper collapsed, armor sinking inward as the golden energy ate through it. The clearing fell quiet except for the crackling of distant fires and the groaning metal of the damaged mech. Marin stepped her Titan closer. "Commander, what is going on out here? Who is that guy? And why are Dominion troops hunting him?" Rourke looked down at Orion. The pilot's eyes were half open, unfocused. "He's the reason we're still alive," Rourke answered. Orion forced out a weak laugh. "Not for long if we stay here. More are coming." He pointed to the sky. What Rourke saw made his stomach twist. 2 large Dominion warships were sweeping over the coastline, moving inland. Their shadows crossed the forest like dark wings. Smaller fighters circled around them like insects around a hive. They were searching for the downed Soulblade. Rourke turned to Marin. "Can that mech still move?" "It can walk," Marin said. "Maybe. If you don't ask it to run." "Good enough." Rourke nodded. "We're evacuating. We need to get Orion to the mobile command bunker. And then to the deep shelter vault." Hale wiped blood from his lip. "Sir. Why the vault?" Orion answered for him. "Because the Dominion isn't here just to attack Earth," he said slowly. "They're here to capture me. And if they succeed, they'll gain something the Council can't stop." Rourke looked at him sharply. "What could they possibly gain from you?" Orion closed his eyes. "Access," he whispered. "To the weapon the Council swore never to use. The one they hid from every planet, including Earth." The forest fell silent. Even the distant explosions felt muted. Rourke leaned in. "What weapon?" Orion opened his eyes again. The gold inside them shimmered faintly. "The one that shook the stars the first time humanity rose." He exhaled. "And the one your people were never supposed to remember." The forest grew darker as storm clouds rolled across the sky, swallowing the last orange glow of burning ships near the coast. Rourke, Marin, Hale, and the remaining soldiers formed a tight formation around Orion as they moved deeper into the forest. Marin's mech stomped behind them, each heavy step shaking the earth. Orion leaned on Rourke's shoulder, his breath shallow and uneven. Every few minutes, a small flicker of gold flashed under his skin, like sparks struggling to stay alive. They moved fast, but not fast enough. The Dominion warships above were sweeping the forest with deep blue search beams, dragging across the treetops in wide arcs. Every time one passed overhead, The air hummed. Branches shook. And everyone froze in place, hoping the scanners wouldn't pierce through the leaves. This time, the Dominion wasn't simply hunting. They were tracking. They were following something specific, Orion's energy signature. Rourke whispered, "You said they want to capture you. Why? What's this weapon you keep talking about?" Orion kept his eyes forward, but his voice was low. Long before the Council existed, long before the Dominion rose, a power was discovered on a dead star system. A power humans accidentally woke. "You mean ancient tech?" Rourke asked. Orion nodded weakly. "More than tech. A living weapon. Pure star energy locked inside a vessel. Something made to reshape entire solar systems." Hale swallowed hard. "And the Council hid it?" "They tried. But the Dominion learned it was real. And they learned that only a certain kind of pilot can guide it. The energy fights back. It kills anyone who isn't compatible." Orion paused for breath. "Humans. A rare few. Can bond with it." Rourke stared at him. "You're one of those humans?" Orion didn't answer. He didn't need to. Marin's mech carefully stepped over a fallen tree. "So the golden energy you keep throwing around, that's from this ancient weapon?" "No," Orion said. "That's me. What I use is only a fragment. A training spark, but the real source, if the Dominion gets it, your planet won't be the only one to fall." The forest floor shook again. This time not from the mech. A distant roar thundered across the land. The Dominion warships were dropping into lower altitude. Rourke stiffened. "They're tightening the search net." Orion winced. "We need to move faster." "We're going as fast as your legs can carry you," Rourke said. Marin's voice crackled through her mech speakers. "We're close to the ravine. The mobile command bunker is on the other side. Once we make it down the slope, we'll be blocked from scanners." Rourke motioned his team forward. The ravine was a long, deep cut through the earth, wide enough to swallow a 10-story building. Trees leaned over its edges like crooked fingers. Mist floated from below, hiding the bottom. They reached the top of the slope when explosions ripped through the sky behind them. The Dominion had found the Soulblade crash site. A blue beam shot upward, a signal flare. And an answering pulse came from one of the warships above. Rourke cursed. "They found the wreck." Marin quickly scanned the sky. "And now they know we're not there anymore." As if answering her, 2 Dominion fighters dove through the clouds, engines screeching. They cut a perfect line toward the ravine trail. Rourke grabbed Orion tighter. "Move. Down the slope." Hale and 2 soldiers slid first, using roots and dirt to slow their descent. Rourke helped Orion down carefully, step by step. Marin positioned the mech at the top of the ravine like a giant shield. The Dominion fighters opened fire. Shots cut through the treetops and smashed into the slope, exploding dirt and rock everywhere. Rourke covered Orion with his body as debris rained down. Marin roared into her calm. "Come on, ugly. Look at me." She raised the mech's cannon and fired straight at the incoming fighters. Her shot clipped one of them, causing it to spin off course and slice through the forest canopy in a shower of blue sparks. The second fighter swooped low and released 2 blue glowing pods. They hit the ravine wall and burst open, unleashing Dominion crawler drones. The insect-like machines clung to the rocks with sharp metal legs and began crawling toward the humans. Rourke didn't think. He drew his sidearm and fired at the nearest drone. Sparks flew from its shell, but it kept going. Hale shouted from below, "Sir, get Orion down here. We'll cover you." Rourke slid the last few meters of the slope, pulling Orion with him. They hit the ground hard, rolling through leaves and mud. Hale's squad fired from behind boulders, trying to slow the drone's advance. Above them, Marin fought like a trapped titan. The mech swung its metal arm, smashing one drone. Then another. But more crawlers poured down the wall behind her. "Rourke," Marin shouted. "Get him out of here. I'll hold the line." "You can't hold alone," Rourke yelled back. "I don't need long," Marin said. "Just get him to that bunker." Her mech staggered as drones clamped onto its legs and arms. Blue sparks burst across its joints. But she kept fighting, stomping and smashing, refusing to give the Dominion an inch. Rourke forced himself to turn away. "Come on, Orion. Just a little farther." Orion's voice was faint. "Don't. Let them take me." "They won't," Rourke said firmly. "I promise." They reached the ravine floor. Thick fog swirled around them. The Dominion fighters circled above, but the rocky walls blocked their scanners. For the first time in minutes, they weren't being shot at. But then the fog glowed blue. A shape appeared ahead, tall, armored, and walking slowly toward them. Rourke raised his rifle. Orion inhaled sharply. "That's not a soldier," he whispered. "That's a Dominion Seeker." The figure's eyes glowed bright blue. The Seeker lifted its hand. "Pilot Orion," it said in a cold, mechanical voice. "You belong to us now." The Seeker stepped through the mist like a living shadow, its armor covered in smooth black plates lined with blue veins of light. Its movements were slow but confident, as if nothing in the ravine could threaten it. It stood taller than any Dominion shock trooper Rourke had ever seen, nearly 3 meters, built like a statue carved from obsidian. Rourke held his rifle tight. Hale and the 2 soldiers took defensive positions beside him. Orion leaned heavily on a boulder, breathing shallowly. Even in the dim fog, Rourke could see the fear in his eyes. Not fear of dying. Fear of being taken. The Seeker raised its hand again. Blue lines along its arm brightened. "Pilot Orion. Your resistance is unnecessary. Your bond to the Source makes you valuable. Surrender, and your world will be minimized in the cleansing." Rourke's heart pounded. "Cleansing?" Orion forced himself to speak. "Seekers don't negotiate. They capture key targets. If they take me, they go straight for the weapon." "What weapon?" Hale whispered. "The Source," Orion said weakly. "The one the Council swore to bury. The one that can erase entire star systems." Rourke stepped forward, rifle raised high. "You're not taking him." The Seeker turned its cold blue gaze on him. "Your defiance is irrelevant." It moved. One moment it stood still, the next it crossed 10 meters in a single stride, like a blur of dark metal. Rourke fired a burst straight at its chest. The bullets hit, bounced, and fell uselessly to the ground. The Seeker swung its arm. Rourke barely dodged, rolling aside as a massive hand smashed into the dirt, leaving a crater large enough to bury a man. Hale fired a grenade round. The explosion lit up the ravine, shaking the ground. When the smoke cleared, the Seeker stood unmoved. Its armor glowed brighter, as if feeding on the energy. "It absorbs attacks," Orion gasped. "It gets stronger." "Fantastic," Hale muttered. The Seeker pointed its palm toward Rourke. A sphere of blue energy formed, growing fast. Rourke braced for the blast. But before it fired, a loud metallic crash came from the top of the ravine. Marin's mech, limping, almost broken, stumbled into sight. It slid halfway down the rocky slope, sparks flying from its damaged limbs. "Marin," Rourke yelled. She didn't answer. She barely had control. But she aimed the mech's cannon with shaking precision. "Hey," she shouted from inside the cockpit. "Over here, glow stick." The Seeker looked up. Marin fired. The cannon shot hit the Seeker square in the chest, slamming it into the ravine wall and burying it under a mountain of rock and dust. The shockwave knocked everyone to the ground. Orion hit the dirt hard, coughing. Rourke crawled to him. "You all right?" "Not for long," Orion whispered. "That won't stop it. Seekers adapt." Rourke looked up. Already, pieces of rock were shifting. Blue light glowed beneath them. "We need to move," Rourke shouted. "Toward the bunker." Hale and the others helped Orion up. They ran deeper into the ravine as the Seeker clawed its way out of the rubble, armor cracked but repairing itself with pulses of blue lightning. It stepped forward. Then another set of explosions rang out, the sound of Dominion fighters repositioning overhead. They were closing in again. Rourke felt trapped from all directions. "Orion," he said sharply. "Can you do anything? Anything at all?" Orion looked down at his trembling hands. No spark. No glow. His power was empty. "No," he whispered. Then he looked at Rourke, with a strange, sad expression. "Not alone." He reached out and grabbed Rourke's wrist. A shock of heat shot up Rourke's arm. His body tensed. Golden light flickered between their hands, weak at first, then growing brighter. Rourke gasped. What is this?" "A bridge," Orion said. "A bond. You're human. Close enough to my energy. I can borrow your strength, and give you mine." The light spread through Rourke's chest like warm fire. His heartbeat thundered louder, faster. The Seeker marched toward them, each step shaking the ground. Hale stared in awe. "Commander. Your eyes." Rourke blinked. The world shifted. Everything became sharper. He could see the energy flows inside the Seeker's armor, blue lines, Weak spots, fractures. He could sense its next move. Orion pushed a hand against Rourke's back. Focus your will. Push the energy outward. I don't know how. You don't need to know. Just want to protect your world. Rourke clenched his fist. The Seeker raised its arm. Golden light exploded from Rourke's body. Not a blast. Not a beam. A wave, radiant, warm, powerful. It collided with the Seeker and lifted the massive alien off the ground, slamming it into the far wall of the ravine with enough force to crack stone. The blue veins in its armor flickered wildly. It tried to stand. Rourke stepped forward, golden sparks drifting off his shoulders. You're not taking him, he said, voice steady. And you're not touching my planet. The Seeker charged, faster than before. Rourke met it halfway. Golden and blue collided, two lights smashing together like dying stars. The shockwave blasted outward, shaking the entire ravine. When the dust settled, the Seeker lay on the ground, armor split, blue light fading. Its voice crackled. Impossible. Human energy. Cannot. Rourke's eyes glowed bright gold as he stared down at it. Earth says otherwise. The Seeker's lights dimmed, then died. Silence filled the ravine. Rourke collapsed to his knees, drained. The golden glow faded from his body. Orion caught him before he fell completely. You did it, Orion whispered. No, Rourke said, breathing hard. We did it. Above them, the Dominion fighters turned sharply, clearly detecting the Seeker's death. The warships adjusted course. They were coming. Orion steadied Rourke. This isn't over. Not by far. Rourke forced himself to stand. Then let's get ready. Orion nodded slowly. Because now the Dominion knows something the Council never believed. He looked toward the sky as the warships descended. Humans can wield starfire. And that, Rourke said, gripping his rifle, changes everything.